Campaign Terrain. I'm your host, Cross. Today, I will be showing you how to make this paint rack. Was that the plan for today? No. I was going to show you an entirely different project, but as I started to clean up, paints just kept being in my way, and paints just kept being in my way, and paints just kept being in my way. So, I needed to organize them. I just had them all in one big flat tray where they were stood up, but they would fall over all the time. Can't have that. So, we're going to make this simple rack. This will take you about 20 minutes to a half an hour, and you're only going to need essentially 3 materials. You're going to need some styrene. This makes the shelves. This is what they actually sit on. This is the regular white kind that when you break it, it makes all the little beads and balls of styrene. But we're going to use a sharp blade, so we're going to cut it. It's not going to have that problem. The sides are made out of heavy card. I like to kind of get in appliances, that sort of thing. I just happen to have some lying around. I don't have a good source for it. This is just some I had. But this is the stuff that's 2 layers thick, 3 pieces of card, and 2 layers of corrugation. And then for the little walls between the levels, you're going to need some thinner cardboard, and for that we're using these strips out of pizza boxes. I don't even eat pizza. I swiped these from a roommate. I cut them all to just about the same height because some pizza boxes are slightly different sizes, and you just want to make sure that these are longer than the width of your eventual product. So that's it. 2 types of cardboard and some styrene, hot glue, a pen or a marker, a sharp knife, and a square would help just to measure the sides. So stick around after the bow. I'll show you how to do this quick, easy project. Oh, and cheap. As we start, I'm going to flash up a couple of stills right here. Okay, now that you've seen those, I'm going to go ahead and start in on this. That's the material we're working with. It's this long strip of white, what people call styro, but it's not actually styro, but it is styrene. And this is the stuff that if you flake it, it breaks into the little beads and balls. But we're not doing that. We're going to cut it with a sharp knife. And this is going to be a really simple build. I'm going to show you how we're going to start this first stage. Then I'll show you how I'm gluing them together. Then I will show you how I attach the little rails to keep the paints in place. And then I'll show you how I put the sides on. First off, let's talk measurements. This thing's about 13.5 inches across. I don't care. I am just using the width that it is. I'm not even going to adjust that. Now, a bottle of paint are typically about 1.25 inches across. I don't know if you can see that, but if you look from this line to here, it's almost 1.25 inches for the bottle. So I'm actually going to use 1.5 inches, but each of these is going to be stair-stepped on top of each other and glued in place. So I want that 1.5 inches and a bit. So I'm going to cut the first one at the top one, 1.5 inches, because it doesn't need a back lip on it. All of the ones from there down will be 2.5 inches. That inch will be able to be glued onto the bottom of the other one. That 1.5 inches and then up, and 1.5 inches and then up is going to create my angle for the height of it. I don't want to go too deep, so I'm going to go for 1 inch deep from front to back. I apologize, 1 foot deep from front to back. That's the same size as this square. In order to do that, 1.5 inches clearances, I'm going to need 8 tiers. Now so I'm going to cut 7 strips at 2.5 inches and 1 at 1.5 inch, and then glue those in place and then attach some sides. So I'm going to speed up the video here and add a little music, cut the first couple of these slices off of here. After that, I'm going to show you, I'm just going to come back with them already done. got 7 of these at 2.5 and 1 of these at 1.5. Now I want to glue each of these an inch onto the one below it. So I'm taking something that's an inch wide. In this case happens to be this paint stirrer. Oops, sorry, can't see that. This paint stirrer, just a little over an inch, close enough. So we've got a little bit of play to work with here anyway. So then I'm going to take and actually pull it. Yeah. Let's go with something I know is exactly an inch. Take this and just do this 7 times, and then I'll be ready to start gluing. I'll be right back. Alright, I've drawn my line on each of those. It's 1.5 inches from one side, 1 inch from the other side. I put a little squiggle so I know which side gets the glue. Now I'm just going to set these up and glue them together. As I've said before, probably 50 times on this channel, I always keep my glue gun on low so it doesn't melt any foam. And all I'm going to do is take, don't want to feed in, there we go. Just a simple line across there is going to be all it needs. I'm going to do a little closer to that line just because, maybe a little extra just to make sure. I want to take the next one below it, or above it, and I want to sit it right on that red line. You will get a few seconds because the foam insulates the hot glue, so you do have a little bit of time to wiggle it back and forth, but you want to line up these ends as close as possible. So that's one done. Got to do this about 6 more times. I'll be right back. Now it's going to be time for these pizza edges. Now these all need to be trimmed to roughly the same height, but it doesn't really matter. You'll notice these are a little bit off. That's fine. These are just to stop the paint bottles from falling forward into the pile. As you notice, this is just about 1 foot front to back. Kind of got my gluing a little off, so it's not quite, but it's close enough. So now I'm going to take one of these and glue it to the front of each one of these. I'm going to glue them all so that when it's done, I can just take some scissors and trim off the ends. So I'm going to do them all like one direction. So I'm not going to have any hang off on one side, I'm only going to have them hang off on the other. So I think I'm going to use what's going to eventually be the left side and leave them hanging over like that, and they all get glued just to the front like this. Let me show you one of those, and then I'm going to go do the rest of these really quick. You will need one on the front as well. My gun really doesn't want to feed today. That's alright. We got there in the end. Okay, so then you've got that edge glued up, and I want to glue that on there and line it up with one of the edges. I'm going to press that on there kind of snug, just make sure the glue gets a good hold. Sorry about the weird brushing noises in the background. Okay, I'm going to do this on the front and the rest of these, and then I'll be right back and we'll work on the sides. Incidentally, I just realized it works best if you work from the top down, just so you're not in your own way. So I suggest start here, not where I did start. Don't start down here. Start at the top and work your way down. Okay, be right back. I've got all those glued up. This has got some paint on it. I don't care. I'm gonna have this last, I'm hoping this lasts for years, and if it does, it's gonna get covered up in paint and who knows what all over the next, quite a while here. So after you get that done, you just want to take some scissors and trim all of these flush with that edge that you left hanging over. Now that one I did kind of a crummy job, so I'll straighten that up. Let me finish the rest of these up and I'll be right back to attach sides. For your cardboard, it doesn't matter what you use. You can use cardboard, you can use foam core, you can use wood if you want. This is just for the side and make it a little more rigid. I happen to be using some of the double wall, that's the triple wall, the double thick. I don't even know where I got this from. It came from some heavy box I had laying around. To start this off, you are going to want to start with one square corner. So if you just randomly cut this out of the middle of a piece of cardboard like I did, you're going to want to square that off. You just use a simple square to do that. You just want to make sure that this piece is going to be both longer and taller than your piece you're going with. So it looks like I did not get this. Oh, yeah, we did. Okay, just long enough. So I'm going to use this square corner that I cut here to square up this other one. And once I have that, I'll be back to actually put them on. Just 1 second. As you can see, I now have two opposite squared corners, and these are going to become my front corners. Now, one thing to note, I don't care if this mark's on the outside. If you make a mark to let you know which one's the square, just be aware that if you're worried about it, you might want to make sure it's on the inside. I don't really care. I just made a match. Now, I do have a blemish in the cardboard here. This is going to be on the one side and be cut off. So that won't even be there. But even if there's one where it's going to be in the main body of it, it's not going to matter. You can just put that to the inside and you'll never see it. So let's get started. I'm going to take this. This is my square corner. This is square. This is my bottom edge here. I'm going to make this the front, and this the top. This is going to be the back, and this is going to be the bottom. This will be here, but it'll be essentially hidden. So take that. Now you don't have to use a grease pencil like I'm using. You can use a marker, a pen, pencil, paint pen, whatever you want, just to know where you're going to mark at. So you want to mark where each of those steps is going to be, and the back, all the way. You won't be able to see it on camera until I show you here. This mark is the top of your upper wall. If you look, that's going to match up like that. So you want to measure how tall this line is, not this line, but this line from this bottom edge. So take a ruler. That looks like it's going to be okay. Now that you've got that mark made, you want to find out how high the top of that wall is. On here, it looks like it's going to be just shy of 6.5. So to make it simple, I'm going to go to 6.5. So I'll move this up. This is my 6.5 mark here. I'm going to come over here, make a 6.5 mark here. And then cut this off. At that same height. Oops. Didn't get all the way through. Remember, change your blades often. Both foam and cardboard dull them. Okay, so this is discard. Keep that, recycle it, use it for another project. Makes good basing material, makes good walls. So, this part here with the square is going to be inside it. We already know that this is 1.5 inches. So what we want to do is we're going to come 1.5 inches in. On that top corner, which I did not get really square, but that's alright, we're about to cut it off. 1.5 inches there. And then we want to measure the height of this bottom wall. This one happens to be, what do you know, 1 3/4 inches. Right on the money. So then, we want to come along this front edge and go 1 3/4 inches. Then we want to draw a line from that 1.5 inch mark to that 1 3/4 inch mark, or whatever your measurements come out to be. Actually, I don't need to draw the line, I just need to cut that off. that is one side. Now we take the other piece, we match the two squares up. Now you have your two sides. Should be pretty straightforward from here on how to glue them together. You're just going to run a bead of hot glue all along this edge, and then press that into place, making sure this top piece stays lined up with that line you already drew for it. So I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to use the cardboard, not the styro, to do it. If you want, you can make yourself a second set of marks along the top of the card, just so you know where to put the glue, but that's up to you. Again, low temp, don't melt the glue, and you're going to want to come all the way to the front here on this one. I think I said hot glue to not, I think I said low temp to not melt the glue, but I meant low temp to not melt the foam. Sorry about the weird angle, but I got to be able to see this. Make sure to line up this bottom edge in this front corner. Alright, I'm going to run a bead of glue along here, flip it over, and sit it on the other side, and I'll be right back. Okay, I am aware that I over-engineer things and I make them sturdier than they necessarily need to be sometimes, but this time you're definitely going to want to do this. Now that this is attached, it's not actually secured here at the corners. There's two ways to do that. Obvious one is tape. You just tape around it, and however you want to do it. You can use a colored tape if you want to make the whole thing, or you can use hot glue and run beads inside here and on the front side if you want. I'm going to go ahead and do this since I'm already demonstrating it. Normally I wouldn't do this, I would just use the tape, I'd be fine with that. So that's it for stabilizing it. Let me get another piece to use for the back, and I'll be right back. That is a weird perspective. Alright, so I'm back. Your back piece only needs to be as big as the back of your rack, and just enough stand up so that the paints won't fall off the back. If you want to do something ornate, like carve a semicircle or a square space to put a sticker on for, you know, anything like that, feel free to do that. I'm actually going to carve a slight semicircle on mine just so it looks a little better. All I'm going to do is take the basic unit, line it up along this bottom edge and the side, and take my trusty pencil and make a couple of marks, or three, where the top of the cardboard is and the outer edge. We're going to cut this off. You don't want to cut inside this. This is actually going to be glued to the back. So I'm going to take that off in a straight line and use the square to do that, just to make sure. Again, sharp blade. This top part doesn't really need to be straight over here. I'm just continuing the line out. Okay, so again, recycle or whichever, that one, we're not going to need that again. Did a good job, cut off my line. Okay, so this is going to fit just like that. And what I'm going to do is make a piece that sticks up here with some slight angles. And to do that, I'm literally just going to use another piece of the pizza box, sit it on that top line that I drew, and mark around it, and then cut it out. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, cut that piece to fit. This is just a simple straight job of hot glue along this edge, hot glue along this edge, hot glue along this edge, and stick it on. Be right back. I've glued the back on. Got hot glue across the top, across the back. Seem to have missed a little here. Once this is done, you're essentially done and it's ready to go. You can decorate it how you want, you can reinforce it how you want. I do recommend on this one, on the inside corners here at the back, I do recommend putting another bead of hot glue down here, which I am doing right now. But that's just because these support this whole open space back here. Alright, I'm going to put some tape on this. You'll see that in just a second. And then I'll be back to talk to you with the final product, and we'll do a final wrap up here and I'll show you how it works. I'm going to put some paints in it and show you how on this test run on this baby. Okay, I've been a LARPer almost as long as I've been a gamer, and I've been a tinkerer even longer than that, so you knew mine was going to have the silver special weapon. As my friend Red Green says, it's the handyman's secret weapon, duct tape. So I put a little duct tape on the corners. You don't have to. Now we're going to take this for the test run. All of these paints should be roughly the same size, and they're all going to fit in here. If you put them in upside down like this, they can be a little tipsy, but these are going to be sitting on a shelf for me, and I want easy access. If you put them right side up, you're going to have good hold because these shelves are just wide enough. Now, I have OCD like a bunch of y'all, so I apologize that I'm just kind of sticking these in there. I will sort them by Roy G. Biv later, don't worry. But for now, that's it. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you stick around after the bump, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. Just make sure to like us, share us, subscribe us, and we'll see you next time. After the break, I'm going to show this with a whole set of paint in it. It still won't be sorted, sorry about that. And I'm going to talk about some upcoming projects I've got. So stick around after the bump if you want, otherwise we'll catch you later. Thanks for sticking around. Let me show you where we're at. I did Roy G. Biv these up a little. Couldn't leave my OCD friends hanging. Plus, as we all know, I like rainbows. A couple things I noticed. I have way too many blues and greens and not nearly enough purples. I also have some black. I never use black paint. Strange. But this is good. This is set and this is ready to go. I am going to have to get myself a second one of these because I've still got paints left over. And that's just in this size. I still got to, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So let me show you what I've got coming up in future videos so that you'll keep coming around. I've got a cliff face I'm working on. Little steps and stairs for them to rise up, so that's good. Got some modular caves I'm working on. Modular caves I'm going to be working on. Those will be able to connect right up to those modular tiles I showed you in a previous video. There should be a link. I'm going to be making some weird spore-releasing creatures out of litter balls on green stalks, made out of the stuff that I've only ever seen ravers put in their hair. So, spore creatures. I'm also going to be talking about texture paints. I've got several experiments I've been working on. Also been making some bridges to cross chasms with. They can be bridges, cross gaps. They can just be to support across a marshy, swampy area. Whatever you want to use them for. They can be piers next to your boat dock if you want. This one happens to be jagged, and I'm using it, and I'm planning on it being really old and beat up, but I am going to be making some new looking ones at the same time. So there we go. Be looking forward to that. Part of the same experiment. And I'm also going to be working on a little altar for you guys. So that'll be fun. Not just scatter train, but an actual set piece for upcoming adventures. Stick around. We got good stuff coming out here on Campaign Terrain. As ever, I'll be your host. My name is Cross. I love you, and I will see you next time.